My name is Victor. So welcome to this live stream. For this live stream, there are a few things we're going to be considering. There are a few things I'm going to be discussing. I'm going to be discussing a very important concept, the concept of actually starting. So that's what I'm going to be considering for the moment that we have here. Okay, now a lot of people want to get into tech. They want to get to do maybe cybersecurity, data analytics, machine learning. They want to do AI, or they want to even go into drop shipping. Quite a lot of things they want to get to do, but they don't know how to actually start. And that can be a very great challenge. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to just hit the subscribe button so that you can actually understand and follow my train of thoughts as I go through this series, because this is going to be a series that I'm going to get into for a, a period of time. So I will just wait for others to join us. Let me share the link for others to join us. Just a few moments. So today we are going to be looking at how do you get started, because like I said, it's actually a challenge. How do you make sure that you get started without overthinking everything, without having to worry about, okay, where do I start from, what do I go into, what kind of resources do I need to actually get started, how much will I be able to make, what kind of mentorship do I need? What kind of guidance do I need? Which field? I get this question a lot. People ask me, okay, which field is most lucrative? All sorts of questions. So I'm going to see how to attend to them today. We are going to have like a guide for the live stream. So I'm going to look at a few things. Now, one of the first things I want to look at is to maybe tell you a little bit about myself, to introduce what we're going to be working out in the couple of minutes. I'm also going to tell you about my own story, tell you my tech journey. My journey started sometime around, but I say 20, 21 years, between 18 to 20, 21 years ago. I'm going to tell you how I have moved on all through those years, and of course where I am now. And for tech, for instance, tech is not something you just get started and you are done. So it's not tech. You can't start tech and you are done. Tech is a field that is ever evolving. So I'm going to share with you my journey, how I started, how I have progressed, and how that can be a lesson for you if you intend to make sure that you make the best out of it. So I'm going to share with you my tech journey, tell you how you can get clarity. So this can be a clarity session for most of us participating. Then I'm also going to tell you why you need to start small. Why starting small is so important, because most people want to start at the very top. Most people want to make that, oh, they get it all right. Most of the times when you get into a field that you're not so conversant with, it might not be the situation, it might not be the case. You want to make sure that you get started so that you can make progress. I'm going to share with you uh, how to make sure that you don't get into overthinking. That trap can make you go between, do I do data analytics? Do I do machine learning? Do I do AI? Do I do cybersecurity? Do I go into hardware? Do I go into network? Do I go into cloud? All of those encumbrances, how do you overcome that? Then I'm going to share with you also how you make sure that you start and start well. Then some habits that can help you grow. I have a note which I'm going to share at the end of the session. So there are some habits that can make you evolve. There are some habits that can ensure that you are successful. Okay, then another thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at major trends. Trends are so important in technology because I remember, let's say 30 years, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, tech isn't what it is today. Tech is always changing, it's always evolving. So if you want to succeed in tech, you must make sure that you're actually ready. Because if you just feel that okay, you're going to start something and you're going to stay at that point, I can bet you will not go so far. I know a lot of people that let's say 15 years ago, they were doing so well in tech. But I can bet you now those skills are redundant. Those skills are just very, very unnecessary. So I'm going to share with you tips on how you can make sure that you are at the top of your career. Um, Very, very important. I'm going to also share some trends. I'm going to look at AI and automation. I'm going to look at cloud. I'm going to look at DevOps. For instance, I'm a Google partner. I'm an AWS partner. I'm going to share with you how you can navigate that landscape and make sure that you succeed. I'm going to talk about cybersecurity. Also, I'm going to talk about data analytics. My first degree is mathematics, so that's something I'm passionate about. I handle data very, very, very well. It's something I do on a regular. Then I'm going to also look at remote and freelance tech economy. Now, most people don't understand how the freelance and tech economy works. A lot of people just feel that, okay, if I have a tech skill and boom, I can just get started. I can just start making money from remote jobs. I will share some tips on how you can get started, how you can start small, how you can scale it, how to make sure that your skill sets are relevant. Then maybe lastly, the sixth item I'm going to look at tech and business integration. Now, a lot of tech people don't succeed because they don't know how to marry tech and business. Tech is awesome, but if you don't know the business of tech, you can know tech and still have an empty pocket. So you need to learn how to marry tech skills and the business of tech. So that's why you have a lot of people that are very skilled, very knowledgeable, but they don't have money in their bank account. They cannot sustain themselves for a very long while. Why? They don't know how to marry tech and business, because those things go hand in hand. If you can master the act of combining these two things together, you're going to make quite a lot of cash. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you have impact, because if you have cash without impact, your relevance might not be so sustainable. And if you want to stay for a very long while, then aside looking at the tech skills, aside looking at money in your bank account, you want to make sure also that you make impact. Because if you make impact, you're always going to be relevant and you're going to last for a very long time. Then the fifth item we're going to be looking at, we will look at some Q&A section. So I'll open up the floor so that you can ask your questions. You can ask any question that you intend to ask, and then we can see how to answer them. And if you have questions, don't forget to just drop the questions. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to see how to reply them. If you've not subscribed, if you've not liked, make sure that you do that, because I'm going to do this for maybe a 30-day series. I already have a schedule so that you can actually get the best out of tech. Then the sixth item we're going to look is just to look at, to recap. We'll recap everything we looked at from the beginning. Then at the end of the day, I will share some resources to you. Now, on the channel, I have over 30 playlists. I've taken my time for the past 2-3 years to record most of the content we use for our physical classes, our paid classes, our premium classes, and make them freely available on my YouTube channel. Whether you're talking about pen testing, whether you're talking about cybersecurity, CompTIA S+, Cisco Cyber Ops, Cisco CCNA, Introduction to Networking, Web Programming, Data Analytics, Cloud, Digital Leader, Solutions Architect, quite a lot of content, data analytics, machine learning. You have a lot of them on the YouTube channel and they are fully available free. So I'm going to share some of those resources to you and guide you on how to approach them, because you can get into a dilemma of information overload. Now, you cannot compare yourself with somebody that started maybe say 2 years ago, or you want to compare yourself with somebody that started 3 years ago and you want to break even into tech. They are not, you guys are not the same persons. Somebody started 5 years ago and you want to do the same thing the person is doing, you might not get it all right. So I'm going to share with you how to make sure that you overcome information overload, because see, you have a lot of information, you have a lot of content. One thing I've promised myself a few years ago is to ensure that I can't say everything I know upstairs. A lot of the things I know upstairs, I can put them on the public domain so that it can help, it can assist people that want to go into tech. Now you see a lot of channels, they maybe talk a little bit about tech and they just do a very short video. Most of those videos are not very elaborate, they're not very detailed. But in the past 2 3 years or 4 years, I've taken my time to make sure that for every series I'm doing on the channel, I take my time. Most of the times it's very difficult, it's very taxing. Imagine I take, for instance, in our physical classes or premium classes or our corporate classes, let's say a company say we want to train persons on pen testing or want to train persons on security plus. I have a complete series on cybersecurity, that's computer security plus. I have a complete series of most of the trainings, like I said, over 20 of them. Now, but I am doing that for a purpose so that you can spend a lot of your time now doing a lot of hands-on, right? You can spend a lot of your time doing a lot of hands-on. So those are the few things that we are going to be looking at today. So number one, I'm going to tell you about the core of what we want to look at today. The second thing, I'm going to tell you about my tech journey. The third thing, I'm going to look at why starting small is so important, why starting small is so necessary. Then we're going to consider tech trends. We're going to look at important tech trends. Then we will look at question and answers. Then we will look at a recap. Then we look at supporting materials. I might be giving out 1 or 2 scholarship for our VIP classes for as many that are very responsive, are very engaging. If I see very awesome questions, I might consider that. Okay, I'll allow 1 or 2 minutes for those that are yet to join us. Let me see. Let me welcome some of us that are already on the live. Sorry. Okay, so I have just a moment. So you can also drop in the comment section. You can tell me where you are connecting from, so that I know. You just where you're connecting from. Let me know. Just let me know where you're connecting from. So we have a lot to discuss tonight. If you want to make sure that anytime I release this series that you get to be notified, make sure that you like, make sure that you're commenting. It will help you get notified. And we're going to be starting. I've done everything we're going to be considering. So I'm going to be starting in the next roughly around 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, Kemi, thank you very much for connecting. You're connecting from Lagos. Don't forget to share. You can share this live to your friends, to tech groups, for as many that want to get into tech. And I will do well to welcome, to acknowledge them. Okay, like I said, just let me know where you're connecting from. Uh, I will start sharing shortly. Let me know where you're connecting from. Okay, I'll start right away. Now, let's do some housekeeping. Now, as you all know, if you've checked the channel, you would have seen a little description about myself. My name is Victor. I've been in tech for quite a while. I manage a few companies. We have presence in Nigeria. We have a few branches around Nigeria. We cover some clients in the UK, in US, some parts, different parts of the world. Uh, the major thing I do these days is consulting, is project management, a little bit of cybersecurity, a little bit of data. Now I'm trying to take a backstage. I'm trying to do a lot of reflection. That's one of the reasons why a few years ago I created a channel to make sure that I push a lot of content on the channel. So that's a little bit about me. If you've been thinking about getting to tech and maybe you don't know where to start, you're overthinking, what do I do? Then this live, I'm going to do a lot of explanation about that. Now, you can also drop in the comment section and tell me what interest that you have. It can help me to like attend to the interest that I have on this live. So if your interest is data, if your interest is cybersecurity, if your interest is AI, if your interest is maybe marketing, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, whatever your interests are, you could drop that in the comment section. And if you're getting uh, good knowledge, good value, don't forget to like. Don't forget to also share this to as many that might be interested. Now, I think this is just a little bit about me. I think I was in my second year we call it secondary school. Most people these days, they call it high school, depending on the kind of school that you go to. I think it was my second year or so. I used to have this very small Pentium 3 computer back in the day. Pentium 3 computers, late 90s, early 2000s. I think the max you would have would be a Pentium 4 computer. Now, if you are aware of the generations of PCs, you understand that laptops were not so much of a popular stuff. So I had a lot of interest in computing, had a lot of interest in making sure to understand how things work and all of that. Now, through those years, we always say that if you want to get into tech, understanding how things work is so paramount, especially if you want to scale and you want to go very, very far. Then in tech also, you can decide to say, I want to be very technical, or I want to be generalistic, or I want to be on the soft side. No, we have this conversation about hardware, software. So for me, for instance, I started with a lot of hardware, a lot of repairs, a lot of networking, a lot of all of that. Those are the kind of things I started with, how to make sure that in the bank you can network the entire bank. You have a duplex, you have a point-to-point connection, you had laptops, you had desktops, you had printers, fixing all of those kind of things. Those are the kind of things I started with. Then after my first degree, I started understanding that, because one thing you need to know about technology is that technology evolves. Because technology evolves, you must understand that even if you choose that you want to do cybersecurity is always going to change. Back in the day, we used to have just regular cybersecurity. Now we have software defined cybersecurity. We have software defined network. We have GRC. We have AI in cybersecurity. So things are always going to change. So that's one thing that have made me always evolve over time. So from hardware to network, the millennium period, the early 2000s, that's where you now started having the dot-com boom, the dot-com era, where people need to have websites. People didn't need to just have only physical servers. People need to also make sure that they go online. So you see having just physical servers to having people having PCs at home. People need to now do what? People need to now put whatever they have on their physical servers, they need to now put it online. So if you want to be relevant, you must ensure that for that same field, that same niche that you have picked, you want to make sure that you advance in that particular area. Of course, I started doing a lot of mobile apps, websites, web applications, and all of that. And that was the period you now started having uh, a lot of things now going, not just people having websites. That's when you now have a lot of APIs, web applications, mobile apps, and all of that. So you have that generation. You have the mid 2000s, between let's say 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the period you now started having cybersecurity becoming so popular. You now started having data start becoming popular. So you start hearing phrases like the new oil is data. Now, you can't find so many cybersecurity professionals like that. Now, even this period, you're having a lot of saturation. So if you want to get into cybersecurity, you must be able to differentiate yourself. If you don't differentiate yourself, it might be difficult for you to become relevant. How do you differentiate yourself? Two things you can do to make sure you differentiate yourself. You want to make sure that you have certifications. You want to make sure you have skills. I repeat that again. You want to make sure that you have certifications. You want to make sure you have skills. But what do you go for first? You go for skills. Certifications only validate your skills. You don't go the approach of trying to say, I want to get a certificate, I want to get a certificate in this, I want to get a certificate in that. It doesn't work that way. You must prove competence, you must prove your skill. Once you're done with that, then you can now move on to validate your certification. I made a very short video on the channel this morning. I was talking about making sure that you start. Because if you don't start, you might not have clarity. You might be asking yourself, you might be wondering, what do I need to do? What do I need to go into? And the point is that there is no best stuff to get into. You just need to look at what you are passionate about, what you feel comfortable doing, what you feel maybe it's not going to give you so much of a headache. You don't want to make sure that it gives you a lot of headache, right? So anything that you're very, very comfortable with, that's fine. You can go with that. And don't forget, you can stay at your goal. The way you get to your goal might be flexible, might change. It doesn't stop anything, right? The most important thing is that you just have to start. And like I said, you don't need to wait till you have the best laptop. You don't need to wait till you have the best gear. You don't need to wait till you have the best training company to like train you. You don't need to enroll for the best course. You don't need to enroll for the most expensive course. You don't need all of that. You don't need to make sure that you have the best certification, maybe by CompTIA, by Google. All of those things are important. I have them. I have certifications in AWS, in Google, in CompTIA, in Cisco. I have them all. I'm not too much of a fan of Microsoft all the years, but you could get those certifications. They are very important. But the first thing first, you want to make sure that you get started and you get the skills. If you're a data analyst, you want to make sure that if you're given data, you can analyze, you can make insights from it, you can do reports. If you say you're a cybersecurity analyst, for instance, if your website gets hacked, you want to make sure that you can fix it. You can suggest on how to make sure that a mobile application or a website is not vulnerable to attack. You can perform some basic vulnerability assessment. If you say, okay, you're a digital marketer, what it means that if I give you a small business, you can make sure that that business attracts sales. So whatever you're trying to go into, you want to make sure that you can deliver value. And that's what is lacking these days. A lot of people just learn, 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 learn. They can't deliver value. And because they can't deliver value, it becomes so difficult for them to make impact. It's so difficult for them to actually put money in their pocket. Now, you have what we call the overthinking trap. When you're thinking, I'm afraid, I don't know if I have actually learned, I don't know if I have learned, you do a lot of research. I see a lot of people meet me, and from their questions, I know they've gone to Google and they've typed top top tech skills in 2026. Yes, you might see top tech skills in 2026. Doesn't mean you have to start from there. The rule of thumb is that even when you get those top 10 skills, pick one of those skill sets and start from the fundamentals of that skill set and have a goal plan so that in the next 6 months you have gone up to intermediate level. Because every 10 skill have basics, fundamentals, intermediate, advanced, or what we call pro, then where you can now start making impact, where you can command your pay, where you can command value. You don't just say, okay, top 10 certifications, you pick that one and you say, I want to get that certification or I want to get that particular skill. It doesn't work that way. You must pay your dues. If you don't pay your dues, it's going to be very difficult. Now, you want to make sure that you start small. You start small. Starting small is so important. If you start small, and one thing I tell my students to do is also to like create a portfolio. In the subsequent lives, let's say in the next 2-3 days, I'm going to be talking about portfolio. How do you ensure that you have an online portfolio, and that online portfolio that you have can help you attract clients? Because in tech, most of the times we're not looking for somebody that knows. We're not looking for somebody that think he can. We're actually looking for people that have done it. And that's the irony. So you might be thinking that, okay, I can do this stuff. I think, yes, with ChatGPT or with Gemini or with Grok or with Lovable or most of this AI app, I can. Yes, you can. But it's going to be a bumpy road. People are actually looking for somebody that have already done it. So if you say you want to go into web programming, software development, one of the first things you want to do is just to start. And in starting, you want to build projects. I'm going to have another live session where I'm going to discuss projects, how to approach it, and how to make sure that in 30 to 60, 90 days, you have enough portfolio to land you a job, enough portfolio to gain an internship, enough portfolio to start freelancing, enough portfolio to make sure that you actually you're relevant. And aside having those portfolio, you want to make sure that you document it. There's a lot of power in starting small, but in starting small, you want to ensure that you document your journey. When you document your journey, it has a way of telling recruiters, it has a way of telling people that you have passed through process. And if you have passed through process, then we can trust you. Most of the times I see a lot of CVs, I get CVs, I do interviews, and you can tell that this person is empty. Because these days, you could just use ChatGPT and write a CV. Now, understand that you need some habits if you want to grow in tech. So I'll list them. So just have the kind of routine. For instance, I write certifications. I do a lot of trainings personally every month or every other month. I can be running a postgraduate degree. I can be running certifications. Like sometimes, 3 months ago, I was running a postgraduate exam. I was running 4 exams. I think 3 or so were Google. I think one was, is it CompTIA also? I've written quite a lot of certification exams. What they do, they just make me to keep fit. They make me to is to ensure that I'm relevant, is to ensure that I understand what's happening in the industry, and I can also command the respect of those people that will commit responsibilities to my hands. So you want to make sure that you're always learning. Tech is something you can't survive if you're not ready to learn, if you're not ready to burn, putting everything in. So, and the idea is that you don't need to wait till you have all of the time. If you're joining us, you can tell me where you're joining from. You can ask your questions, and I'm going to reply to them. Then I'm going to have a question and answer period where you can ask your question. Don't forget to also like. You can share this live to groups or your status or persons that can join us. Now, you want to have a period of learning. It can be just 1 hour, 2 times every week, or 3 times every week. Even for our paid classes, for instance, we don't do more than an hour, 30 minutes in classes, maybe 2 times a week. It's not how long, it's how well. You don't need to spend 6 months to learn a skill. No, 30 days is sufficient. Even 21 days, 3 weeks is enough for you to learn a skill and master it, provided you have focus. So you want to have 1 hour or 40 minutes every day or 3 times a week, depending on what your schedule is. What's most important is consistency. It's not how much you've covered, but how much of focus, how much of consistency that you have. That's what's going to tell whether you're going to be successful or not. Then you want to make sure that you have projects, you work on projects. If I'm mentoring students, let's say doing cybersecurity, my goal, my focus is, can they work on, let's say, 10, 15, 20, 30 projects within the next 3 months? If either projects or labs, depending on how you put it. If I'm mentoring students on data analytics, I want to make sure that they have projects. They have like 4, 5, 6 projects, and they have reports for those projects, let's say on Medium, something on Tableau, something people can look up to on Power BI. You want to have something that you can point to. If you're getting to digital marketing, you want to ask a few friends and say, okay, what can I do for you? If you're into DevOps, you want to make sure that you deploy an application in the cloud. So you want to do something, because doing the project is more important than any theoretical knowledge that you have. Then, like I said, make sure you are learning, make sure that you have projects, then make sure that you have your portfolio. Okay, I think the next thing I'm going to look at is tech trends. So I will intermittently open the floor. Okay, somebody saying projects are very important in tech. They help with your portfolio. Awesome. Yes. Without projects, you can't validate that you know. Most of the times, if I'm recruiting either for any of my companies or for clients or for my partners, I don't even look at your CV. I don't look at all the things you have there. If I open a CV, the first thing I want to look at the projects. Do I have projects? Do I have online portfolio? Or rather, did the person have online portfolio? Is there anything that points to that proves that this person owns this? Once I can't see it, I move on to the next person. It's very simple, because you have a lot of people applying for jobs, a lot of people saying, I do give my students this example. You see a software engineer, then all the things you built is just on your local PC. That's scam. If you say a software engineer, you should have 3 links, 4 links, 5 links that points to what you've done. Preferably, it should be in use, not something that you just, because that's what you call software maturity. So it should have gone through stages of quality assurance. The client have looked at it, the client likes it, then the client approves it, then the client have used it, it has passed through bugs, it has passed through testing. If you say you're doing cybersecurity, I'll ask you, have you built any script? Have you built anything that can do, let's say, forensics? Have you built anything that can do vulnerability assessment? Have you tested stuff? Have you fixed a hacked website? If I mess up a website, if I mess up a network, can you check what the issue might be? It's as simple as that. It's not a lot of grammar, it's not a lot of theories. If you say a data analyst, can we give you a research and you start from the objectives to presenting your reports? If you say you're a cloud engineer, you're a cloud security analyst, do you know the intricacies of GCP, or let's say AWS or Azure, or let's say Alibaba? Or let's say you don't want to mess up with a lot of things, you're just focused in one cloud service provider. So what can you do? It's a very simple question that a lot of people that have been learning for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they can't answer. And that's why they are always stuck. So let's just look at some trends, right? Let's look at some trends. So I'm going to look at some major trends that you want to watch out for. Because in your journey, you want to ensure that you're not just learning, you're not just going back, forth. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing is in tandem with what is needed. There are two things. You can decide to go for what you're passionate about, There's a downside to that, but there's a good side to that. If you go with what you are passionate about, what's going to happen is that you might be able to last long with it. But if you go with what is needed, you're going to be more relevant, you're going to have enough cash flow for that, and you're going to be more impactful. So you must have a balance between what you are passionate about and what is needed. One advice I also give to people that are starting or people that want to pivot into tech is I do tell them, I say, have a long-term goal, then have a short-term goal that can put money in your pocket. If you actually heard me very well, you can type that in the comment section. Let me repeat myself. I said, if you're coming into tech, have a long-term goal. It might be a very big plan. You can say, okay, I want to be a cloud security engineer, or I want to be a DevOps engineer. I want to be an AI or machine learning engineer. I want to be a GRC specialist. I want to work in the top 10 companies, and this is the particular skill I want to. Yes, that is excellent. And it might take you 1, 2, 3 years to be at the prime, at the peak of that skill set. But one thing you need to do for yourself is to pick up low-hanging fruits. I think maybe in one of the live series, maybe before weekend or by next week, I'm going to look at low-hanging tech skills. The idea is that you want to make sure that $100,000, $100, $200, 50,000 naira, 50 Ghana cedis, 100 Ghana cedis, cash is not your problem. You want to make sure that if you need data, if you need to pay for a course, if you need to certify yourself, you don't have issues with that. Because that's one of the reasons why a lot of people give up too easy, too early. Why? No cash, no gratification, no gamification, no satisfaction. Because there's no satisfaction, then they can easily just give up and they can say, I don't think tech is worth my stress. I don't think I should do tech. There's no money in tech. It takes a lot of time. And that is the reason. Because the area they have chosen takes a longer time. Maybe it's an intermediate level skill set or is a pro level skill set. It takes a longer time for their skill set to become relevant for them to be able to be paid. So one thing you can do, you can have two skills, and those two skills can be complementary skills. Let me give you a simple example. If you intend to become, let's say, a AI engineer, that's not an entry level skill set. That's not even an intermediate level skill set. That's a pro level skill set. That can be a long-term goal, a 2-year goal, or a 1-year goal. So you need time, you need effort, you need to pay for courses, you need to certify yourself, you need to show proof that you are an AI engineer. But while you are doing that, what happens to you needing to pay for courses, pay for mentorship, pay for certification, validate your skill set, attend webinars, let's say maybe get data, get maybe a good phone, or maybe get a laptop, or maybe upgrade your system for something or whatever. How are you going to cater for that? If you have an existing job, it becomes easier. But if your expenses cannot cover that, it becomes more and more difficult. So if you want to get into AI engineering, low-hanging fruits that you can look at, low-hanging skills you can look at is research analyst, is, let's say, content creation, is a questionnaire design specialist. Those things that are very, very easy, people will need those kind of services, or just a simple data analyst. All of these skills build up and they are very important and necessary for you to become an AI engineer, right? So same thing, somebody you want to be a web programmer, you want to be a software engineer. They are low-hanging tech skills that are complementary to that software developer you want to become. Things like digital marketing, things like UI UX designer, things like basic website creation. You see, all of these things is going to put money in your pocket, is going to keep you motivated, is going to make sure that you also fulfill the prerequisites for your high-end goal. So you need to research, you need to look at your long-term goals, you need to look at your present goals and see how to map them so that you stay motivated all through. So major trends, I'll just list them, I'll explain briefly, and I'll open the floor for questions. So the very first one is AI, automation. So this is something that is new. I can remember 15 years ago, if you need to create content, if you need to, let's say, do some documentation, or if you need to plan a software you want to develop, it was pain in the ass. But today, if you want to build a software, you can use AI and you could get software requirement documents. You can get UML diagrams, that are what we call universal model language diagrams. You can get flow diagrams, that's the user flow. A user logs in, he subscribes, he signs it. You can get the entire stuff. Then you can get the UI UX content for each of the screens for that software. You can get the UI UX designs, and you can start demoing the front end and even the back end or the prototype for the software. Years ago, it was not that way. So one thing that is very, very important is your ability to be able to use AI tools and see how you, whatever skill set that you choose, how to ensure that automation is part of it. Okay, another very important trending stuff now is cloud. Now, cloud is everywhere. If you want to go into data, start thinking about data engineering in the cloud. And what's cloud? Cloud is just saying that we will normally have data in our regular hosting applications or platforms and in our systems, but now this data, it's big and we can't manage it. It's in millions and millions and millions of rows. You have customer data, let's say for banks, for multinationals, they don't deal on just 1 million customer base. They deal on millions of rows and records. How do we ensure we have a decentralized data center system scattered all over the world so that we can have something that is always available, something that is scalable, and something that is cheaper? That's why you have cloud. So if you're a data analyst now, you should be thinking about, how do I now start doing data analytics in the cloud? How do I start doing big data in the cloud? Because a company is going to say they need a data analyst, but they start mentioning things like you being familiar with some cloud platforms, right? So it's a new trend. So if you say you're doing cybersecurity, what about the company now have some assets in the cloud? So you become irrelevant automatically. What about a customer or a business say they need a digital marketer, a content creator, but now they're using cloud analytics tool to do customer insights data for their customers. So you need some little bit of cloud skill set. So make sure that you are planning towards pivoting into cloud, because it's something that is going to become very, very popular with time. So it's not saturated all that now. I can bet you cybersecurity is becoming a little bit, I won't say saturated, I would say a lot of people are now having more interest, but the skill sets are still not there. That's the challenge. Now that's cybersecurity. So you have a lot of companies, they want to fulfill roles. And that's one thing I normally tell my students. If you hit up 100 companies, they're going to have platforms, they're going to have networks, they're going to have softwares, but they might be looking for people that can make sure that those things are secure. Because the guy developing those systems doesn't know how to make sure it is secured. They just know how to deploy those things. Or people that are using AI these days to create stuff, they don't know how to make sure those things are secured. Right? So data, like we said, is the new oil. So it's going to be a very, very evolving stuff, because it's also tied with AI. Now, let me talk a little bit about freelancing. I'm going to do another series where I'm just going to dwell on freelancing. In the coming days, I'm going to talk about freelancing. And maybe from next week, I would maybe take two part series and really talk about freelancing. Because if you want to get to freelance, you're going to decide if you want, like I said, low hanging skill set, or whether you want to go for the very, very top, rare, in demand skill set. So you're going to make that decision. But just understand that it's something you want to plan for. You want to plan that you can stay at home, you could do a lot of stuff, and you don't need to leave your house. Then the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to trends is you need to master tech and business integration. If you have data analytics skills, how do you make it a business? If you have software engineering skill set, how do you make it a business? Or how do you partner with somebody that already have it as a business so that you can become relevant? A lot of tech people don't succeed because they don't understand the business behind the skill set that they have. So you just need to pick one trend and make sure that you consistently build, and that's how you can get noticed. Okay, so the question is going to be, where do you start from, right? So if you like creativity, you might want to consider front end. You might want to consider UI UX. You might want to consider project management. If you want to look at managing people, managing resource, that's what you want to look at. That's what I do a lot these days. If you love problem solving, or if you like to fix stuffs, then you can explore cybersecurity. But like I always say, cybersecurity is not entry level, it's intermediate level. So you must have understood some fundamentals in tech before you get into cybersecurity, except you want to get into non-technical cybersecurity skill sets. So there are very non-technical cybersecurity skill sets. I did a video on my channel. You can just search for it on the channel. Non-technical cybersecurity skill set. So you have about 10 of them. You could become a cybersecurity project manager. You could be. I have some students in some parts of the world, some countries. That's what they do. You can get into GRC. It's non-technical. You can get into writing. It's not technical. You're still doing cybersecurity. You can get into blogging. It's still. You can get into marketing. That means you're doing marketing of cybersecurity products and services. So there are a lot of non-technical cybersecurity roles. If you're somebody that you don't want something too technical, then if you're somebody that is analytical, you want to explore data analytics, and I think that's that. So you can ask a question in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer your question. So let me know what you've learned. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know your key takeaways from this session. And we're going to have another session tomorrow. I intend to do this maybe every day or every other day. And once I take the feedback, the questions, then I'm going to share some resources and we can call it a day. So questions, if you have a question. One thing I'm going to be discussing tomorrow is how to get your first tech jobs. Now, most of the time, some people, they have skill set, but they don't know how to position themselves to get tech jobs, right? So tomorrow I'm going to discuss that 9 p.m. 9 West African time. I'm going to discuss how do you get your first tech jobs, how do you ensure that you position yourself and you can attract recruiters, or you can position yourself in such a way that uh, when you submit either your portfolio or whatever, that you can actually get into the door. So I will wait for questions. I'll wait for feedback before I do a recap. Questions? If you've learned something, you can let me know what you've learned so far in the comment section. Let me know what you've learned. I want to know what you've learned so far. Okay, how do we build a portfolio? So I have another live. I think that's going to be slated for what's it called? Just a second, let me check my schedule. Okay, I will discuss that tomorrow when I'm going to be looking at how to get your first tech job in maybe 2025. Because there's something that is very important, like I said. If you don't have proof that you can, nobody's going to listen to you. So in tech, the way to get into tech is to say, okay, you're learning something, then you are showing proof that you know that it's very easy for someone to hire you. It's very easy for you to get into an internship. It's very easy for someone to give you a trial. But if you have learned and you want to get into the door and you're saying something like, I know how to, sorry, there's nothing like, I can. The question is, have you? So if your answer to have you is yes, then you're a better bet for us to engage you. So I'm going to discuss that in detail by tomorrow. I'm going to look at getting into tech, whether you want to consider freelance or full-time employment, or whether you want to set up your own company, you want to set up your own business altogether. So I'm going to look at those three options tomorrow. And in looking at it, I'm going to consider building your portfolio, because that is so important when it comes to landing your first job, or when it comes to making an impact. Okay, just to recap, today we look at why it's important to get started. You just need to get started. I shared some tips. I told you a little bit about my journey. Uh, I emphasized the importance of starting small, starting and making sure that you have a schedule, either you're learning daily or every other day or 3 times a week. You want to make sure that you're consistent. There's power in consistency. Then you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're building, you are pushing, either you're pushing to Medium or you're pushing to GitHub. I'm going to share building portfolio tomorrow, 9 p.m. Right? Then I also talked about mindset. You need to have the right mindset. Someone that started like a few years ago, you cannot compare the person that you want to do the same thing. You don't want to compare yourself with someone that started 20 years ago. You want to ensure that you just make small, simple progress. And if you culminate everything together, it's going to make a whole lot of sense. I also talked about some trends. I talked about AI and automation. I talked about cloud and DevOps. I talked about cybersecurity demand. I talked about data analytics. I talked about remote and freelance. I'm going to expand more on remote and freelance. I'm going to talk about different sites. I'm also going to look at you piggybacking on other sites and setting your own portal so that you can attract clients and you have full ownership. I'll discuss that tomorrow. Then I talked about tech and business integration, because if you know tech and you don't know the business side of tech, then you can't earn, or you will earn lower than what you're supposed to be earning. Okay, I think that's all for today's session. If you've not liked, if you've not shared, and I think you could check the playlist on the channel, depending on what you've decided on. By weekend, after we've done, let's say, 7 days of this series, I'm going to create a community. We are currently running some challenge that's completely free. We also have a premium class for mentorship. We also have a very free class for cybersecurity, for data and IoT, for web programming and cloud. We're starting digital marketing and IT project management sometime within the week. So within the week, I'm going to share that maybe during the live session so that you can pick that. But note that on the channel, if you go to the playlist, you're going to see over 20 items. So you can use that to start your journey. And tomorrow, when we come back to look at how do you land your first job, I'm going to buttress on most of those facts. Okay, thank you very much for attending the live. We've spent the last 54 minutes. Don't forget to tell somebody about this live. See you guys tomorrow. So I'm going to be ending the live session. See you guys.